is a presentation of the Match Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Kevin Dresser and his staff. Now, let's join your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant.
Episode 34 of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Welcome back, Hokie Nation. Today, we'll be heading out to Iowa. Yes, we won't actually be physically heading out to Iowa, but Kevin Dresser in his home state of Iowa right now, hanging out, kicking back after a busy summer here on episode 34 of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. And Coach Dresser, man, it's hot out here in the Midwest right now.
Yeah, I'm sitting outside right now in Iowa, and I've been in Florida at the convention, and I've been out teaching and recruiting a little bit in the Virginia Beach area, so I got acclimated a little bit, but it's not much cooler here. It's nice and warm, but that's all right. I'll take it.
We got some nice freshwater fishing. We got some nice humidity, and who needs a sauna? We can just go outside and sweat.
Yeah, it is. It's outside here. I'm at my brother's in Ankeny, Iowa, and his neighbors have a killer pool next door, so my family's enjoying that, and I'm sneaking back and forth as well. So it's kicking back day. We're going to go up to Okoboji, which is a big hot spot in Iowa, and spend some time in Okoboji. My kids haven't got to experience much water skiing, so we're going to test their skills. We're going to just throw them out there and see if they can make it happen, I think, Friday. So it's just a little downtime.
Yeah, it's not like, when the New River running through Southwest Virginia, it's like, all right, let's go water ski on the rapids. It doesn't quite work that way.
Nope. You got to, growing up in Iowa, that's one thing you learn how to do is most people know how to water ski. So we're gonna see how good they are.
Yeah, that's one thing. I don't tend to ski much. I tend to fall and float. So I kind of like I like the more laid back lake lifestyle. Like give me a sudsy beverage and a float and maybe a fishing rod, and I'm good to go.
Well, my son will probably have a fishing rod and try to be water ski. He likes to do both of that. So but I'll be relaxing on the boat. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of old friends and some wrestling people, and then going back to my hometown and coming back to Virginia. But I'll be ready to get back on Sunday when we get back.
So we talked with Mike Zadek last episode while we were in Fargo at the Junior Nationals. One of the incoming recruits, Jared Dagan, had a pretty good performance, second in Greco, seventh in freestyle, and the rest of the kids are already in Blacksburg in summer school. So when it comes to summertime, where do you think the idea has shifted to say, okay, do you encourage some kids to go out to Fargo if they really want to and bring some in to get some early classwork done? I mean, where's that balance between, all right, which kids should go and which kids should come to campus right away?
Well, I don't have a problem at all with them going to Fargo. I think Fargo is a great thing, and I think it's great for development. Some kids like to get started academically early, and we're fortunate at Virginia Tech to help them out financially. If they're on any type of a scholarship, we can help them with summer school. So we've got kids that take advantage of that just to make their life maybe a little easier their freshman or sophomore year. So I see both sides of it. It's nice to not have that academic pressure, especially when you're trying to get acclimated as a freshman or sophomore in college. So, and they and when they're in town, they do a lot of training. I mean, they show up around July 5th, and we train. Well, this year we trained real hard until the 23rd, so they had a lot of training, and now they're kind of on their own since the 23rd. So there's benefits to it. There's benefits to both, and yeah, we of course we followed Jared. He did a great job out in Fargo, so we're excited to get him to campus. He's probably the only guy that didn't come and train with us. We have a big incoming class along with a lot of kind of recruited walk-ons and some scholarship guys. So we had everybody in town this summer training. So it was a really good training period, and of course we knew Deegan was in good hands because Zadek ran the Montana freestyle training camp out there. So overall, it was just a good training period this summer.
One of the other topics of discussion for the summer, every year the NWCA convention always has something come out of it that's worth talking about. This year, the big talking point was the blue ribbon panel that was being put together by the NWCA to determine if a shift of the season would be something that's good for the sport of wrestling. There's different courses of action. I actually spoke to a newspaper reporter today talking about how resistant to change the wrestling community can be with things like this. But there have been talks about shifting the season away from March Madness. That first weekend of basketball is when our pinnacle of college wrestling is. And what are your thoughts about potentially moving the season from March into April?
I like it, and I think every coach that was there that saw the hard data that backed up the idea liked it too. In fact, of all the coaches, when we met Saturday afternoon, and there was probably 35, 40, Division I coaches and a bunch of assistant coaches there, were for it, and they understood the need for it. So, you have to change. We have to continue to grow our fan base. And I think New York City was a great example of growing our fan base because they gave some stats on how many just new first-time attendees showed up at Madison Square Garden. And we have to keep doing that. And by getting off of basketball's mainframe weekend, I think that helps us. And then the other part, that's the biggest part, I think, from the administrators is the student athlete welfare, and making it a 1-semester sport instead of a 2-semester sport gives kids, do the simple math, it's 50% chance of less of being ineligible. And APR is a buzzword in college sports, but in layman's terms, that means if your guys aren't eligible and they're not coming back, your university, your program gets penalized. So, and that's ultimately how programs get dropped, not just wrestling programs. So we have to stay ahead of the curve and do what we need to do to make wrestling grow and to make sure that we're gaining programs and not losing programs. And I think all the research that this task force put together showed that. And we've been talking about it for a long time, moving the season back. And I think everybody's been for it. Now we're just a lot more organized and got a lot more brass in terms of real ADs on this committee. And so it's probably going to happen.
Now, as we look at the calendar, there's a couple models floating around. I think the one is saying that there's like a 3 or 4 week tournament season, and then the rest of it's duels, and then we get to the postseason. Now, with that type of thinking, where there's kind of a set part of the season where this is tournament season, and then we're going to go with the 1 hour weigh-ins, the duel part of the season. How would this, as a coach, kind of help you gear your schedule and get your guys ready to peak versus, all right, okay, we're going to go to Vegas this year, or we're going to go to the Virginia duels? I mean, we're going to balance so many things. It's like you've got tournaments at different points of the year that are like, okay, well, how do we peak for this?
I think all what you said, just in terms of having a little bit more regimented scheduling periods, is a good thing. I think as coaches, knowing that, okay, this is when we've got our open tournaments and our tournaments, and now we maybe shift into dual meet season and get ready. And I think the real possibility of having a dual meet component wrapped into the NCAA tournament, the individual tournaments and things, is probably looking like it could happen too. So it all makes sense. I think when we get towards 2019, I think that we're going to see some changes in wrestling, and I think for the better. And again, like you said at the beginning, there's a lot of people out there that are going to be listening thinking, oh man, we don't want to change this, we don't want to change that. But I really do think that once everybody looks at it, I think there's going to be a lot more people that will understand the change versus not understand the change.
Last topic on the convention that I heard that was brought up was the discussion about redshirting. There's a couple different angles there, but one of them I believe I had read that kind of jumped out to me is that maybe passing a rule that says to be eligible to compete as a redshirt, you have to be eligible. That's something I kind of like. So basically it's like, okay, well, I'm ineligible, I still get all this competition. I mean, what do you think about that particular idea, saying, oh, if you're ineligible, you're not competing anywhere? I mean, whether you're unattached or not.
I like it. I think that I like the idea. I need to learn more about it, so I'm not gonna 100% bless it. But it was just kind of thrown out there. It wasn't nearly as formal as the moving the season back, and it wasn't laid out in detail like how the dual meet season could roll over points into the NCAA tournament. That was detailed. That was laid out there a little bit more detailed. So what you just explained was a little bit of a new concept. So I don't know all the details of it, but just on first thought and first topic, I liked it.
All right, now we're going to shift over to the focal point of Our discussion today here on episode 34 is the coaching staffing changes. We've had Mike Zadek on the show. We talked to him. Actually, surprised to find out that, as Mike said, he's 38 years old. This is his first full-time job. And it's funny how the wrestling world works like that. You can be a coach forever and not actually be a coach officially for a long time. But Mike's come on board. Derek St. John has come on board, and Devin Carter on board with the club and the program as well. So when we look at formulating a staff, and this goes back to your days at Grundy and Christiansburg, you're always going to have good assistants around. And I guess maybe the big linchpin with bringing in power coaches was when you were at Christiansburg and you bring in an NCAA champion, another NCAA champion, Darrell Weber, to be your assistant. And now then he took that program and kept it rolling. So from a head coaching perspective, we use that term, the buzzword, CEO, a GM. You kind of enacted that and got that into place in the high school side of things before this was really even a thing in college.
Well, I believe that I learned a long time ago from a very wise businessman that hired me in Grundy is one of the best things you can do is hire really good people and people that are better than you in certain areas. And I think my first, besides having a few maybe Grundy wrestlers helped me at Christiansburg when I got started there first. But my first probably real hire, full-time coach hire was Darrell Weber in 2000 when I hired him when I was at Christiansburg, and Darrell took over as my assistant, and him and I worked together for 6 years. And Darrell, obviously he's proofs in the pudding, and the pudding's old now. He's done a great job, and he's an unbelievable coach, and he's still out there teaching wrestling. The people that watch his video series and just how detail oriented he is and knowledgeable he is in the sport. And he's got great enthusiasm now. He's kind of in a different role. He's not actually coaching. He's more teaching, even though he's still coaching. So that was a great hire, and then when I get to the college ranks, the first guy that I recruited as an athlete or hired as a coach was Tony Roby. And I had a lot of background in Tony, and I knew he was good, but he's even better than when I hired him. And then I had some really good assistant coaches like Nate Yetzer and David Hoffman, who have all progressed and are, doing, higher up in programs. And then, lately getting guys like, Mike Zadek and Derek St. John. And of course we inherited Devin Carter because we had him as an athlete. I can't say enough about the staff I've got in place right now. We got a heck of a staff, and our regional, having a guy like Mike Zadek as your regional training center coach, and him and Derek did a great job this year we didn't have a lot of guys because of injuries, but they did a great job of getting our guys ready to go for Akron. And so it's all good. And I don't have, and we all got egos. I've got an ego, but I don't have an ego nearly as much as I did in that particular arena of wrestling that, I love. If I sit in the corner at the NCAA tournament, that's fine and dandy, but I'm not going to run there. I've got guys that are on the mat with guys, and if that's what they want to do, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the right coaches in the building, and we've been pretty fortunate to do that. And Virginia Tech's helped me to do that too. But I like having good people, and we've got some really good people right now.
Yeah, let's just go back in time. The Tony Roby hire way back in the day, and Tony was a head coach at Binghamton. They had just reinstated that program. So you basically lured a guy that was a Division I head coach to be an assistant, and the program at the time was pretty much in shambles. So, the story with you is you can sell ketchup to, a woman in white gloves kind of thing, or whatever the saying goes. How do you bring Tony Roby to Blacksburg with what you guys were left with? And then, you look at it and be like, all right, well, crap, we were right.
Well, actually Tony kind of reached out to me because I think he was just interested, and obviously he had a head job at Binghamton, but Tony was interested. And so when he called me, I was interested, but we were far from, marriage at that point. When I got to be around him a little bit more, and I think he learned a little bit more about our program, he got more excited. But ultimately, I had to do the legwork at the end because, like all things, sometimes when we go after guys, we get them raises at their current position. And I know we went after Tony, and Binghamton came to the table and kind of made him one of those offers that he couldn't turn down. And so I flew up to Binghamton and gave him another offer that he couldn't turn down, and kind of saved the deal at the end of the day with Tony and Jen and got their family down here. So it was a great situation. It was well worth the effort and well worth the extra money. I'm not afraid to spend money if you got good guys, and that's what you got to do.
And talk about Nate Yetzer, who is now leading the program at Ferrum College, right down the road, a Division III program, was the Rookie Coach of the Year after an All-American career at Edinboro. And you look at what coaches do, and Nate's an interesting example because you got a guy that was at the Division I job. That's where a lot of these Division I All-Americans want to be. And then an opportunity comes up to say, all right, I like the area. I don't necessarily want the grind. There's some family things that came up with him and his family, but all of a sudden the Division III opportunity is there. And it's like, hey, wow, you've got a head coach at a college level that was on your staff.
I think when Nate first took that job, he kind of wondered about that. And I think now, after being there for 4 or 5 years, he'd probably be the first to tell you that, in terms of development, and that's what it's all about, is developing as a coach and getting better as a coach, because just because you were a good wrestler doesn't make you a good coach. I know I probably still need to apologize to my first 3 or 4 years at Grundy High School of the teams that I had there, because I inherited a great program, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I was overtraining guys here and wasn't doing the right things in other areas. And so you live and learn, and sometimes you can't live and learn that just being the third or fourth guy in the totem pole. You got to get in charge. And, Nate Yetzer is going to continue to progress in the coaching world. Who knows where he'll end up? He's still a really young guy. And I got my first college job at 43 or 44 years old. He's not even sniffing that yet. So he's got a great future, and he's going to do good things. And, we'll see how long Ferrum's going to have to work to keep him, because as he gets more famous and more popular, more people will probably come after him in short order.
And, of course, Dave Hoffman, who was at Bucknell, then came back for a couple of years now, is at the head assistant position at Chattanooga. You got to see this guy as being a Division I head coach someday.
Absolutely, and he's in a perfect situation because Coach Eastlinger's a great guy to learn under. He's a businessman, too. I get called a businessman a lot, but Coach Eastlinger's a businessman, so I'm going to call him a businessman. But he's also a wrestling coach, and he's going to give David a ton of stuff to do that he probably wouldn't have got to do just because we're so deep with coaches. He's going to get to do a lot more at Chattanooga, and I think that was the ultimate decision for him. He loved Blacksburg, and he loved Virginia Tech, but he wanted more, and that opportunity came up. And so being in the right place at the right time is how we get coaching jobs. A lot of times that's how it worked for me. And so we'll see him progress, but he's a guy I can't imagine David being away from wrestling. He just loves wrestling so much. I can't imagine him not being around wrestling.
Now we talk about the current staff with Mike Zadek, of course, coming on now, and Derek St. John also in a full-time capacity. And there's a distinct Iowa twinge to this, and it's not like you in the 80s Iowa. There's a recent Iowa twinge here, and with the drama that's gone on this past season with the national duels and all that, do you think it's just really interesting to be a Virginia Tech wrestling fan right now, going, okay, we got some drama, we got some controversy, we got some people following us. This is an interesting time to be a Hokie wrestling fan, especially with the dynamic and the makeup of the staff.
Well, timing of the whole national duels and the way that it all went down, and obviously I got on your show and jumped up and down and beat my chest and probably beat my chest too hard, but it makes for probably good fan interest, and at the same time maybe pushes the people to do the right things. But I don't think if Derek or Mike if they wouldn't have been at Virginia Tech, it probably still would have been a controversy. But of course, those guys being here made it extra controversial. I think Mike said it, and I heard him saying it in a recent interview. We just want to wrestle the best teams, and that's what we've always wanted to do. Since Coach Roby and I started, that was our goal, was to wrestle the best teams and be in the best environments. And that's what great college kids want to do. They want to be in the biggest gyms with the most people and the most TV cameras there. And if they don't like that, they're probably not going to be there because they're probably not good enough to be there. So when you get an opportunity to do that, and I was just another one of those teams. It was just another one of those teams. So you know what? We might have a chance to wrestle them this year. We might not. We might get a chance to wrestle the Penn States and the Ohio States, and I could go on. There's a lot of great programs. We do get to wrestle Missouri this year, but I think from a fan interest standpoint, the Iowa dynamics, and those guys are competitive. St. John and Static, just like all of us are, they like to beat everybody. They probably like to beat Iowa a little more than everybody else. That's just human nature. I think everybody likes to go in and beat their alma mater, whether you're talking about wrestling, football, or anything. You respect your alma mater because you went there, but it's okay to say you want to go in there and beat them. And I'll be the first to tell you that I want to go in there and beat them.
Now, this past season, what did you see with Derek and Mike that made you say, you know what, these guys need to be on our staff full time?
Well, this year was really a trial period for both of them because they kind of came as a package deal because Mike's got some strong relationships from his Iowa days, and so this was a deal where everybody got together, not even at this time last year, and said we're going to start this thing out, and we'll go about 9 months, and if I like you, we'll keep it going, and you like me, we'll keep it going. But we both have to like each other, and so there was no pressure one way or the other. It was just a real short-term, email agreement. And when we got to the end of it, I sat down with Tony and we talked about it, and we felt like these guys added a ton of value to us this year. And I think I know they really like it, and I think they see the potential here, and I think they saw their mark. We got as an assistant coach, I think your role's got to be a difference maker. Even anybody in your organization, if you're the secretary, your responsibility is to be a difference maker. And those guys, all three of those guys were huge difference makers this year. And so that's why they're around, because no matter how much you like somebody, it's still about results. And those guys produce results. And that's the bottom line.
When you look at a guy like Zadick coming in with the Olympic and world experience, and not just the backwoods type of upbringing where he's really, likes being in the woods, like I guess the mountain man type of terminology is kind of what follows him, but the guy is an extremely technical mind when it comes to wrestling. And when you bring all those things together, and then you bring in a guy like Derek St. John who won the national title recently, and then you've got two people that have been head coaches. I mean, you've got a lot of different personalities on this staff. And how do you as a head coach balance that? I mean, you've spoken on this show before about how you and Roby kind of, work on certain things. He'll handle this part this week and you'll take this the next. You have different ways of doing things, but when you've got this diverse of a group when it comes to coaching and knowledge, I mean, how do you bring them all together and make them one cohesive unit?
Well, that's not as easy said as done. I mean, I just look at it like this. It's kind of like when you have talent on the wrestling team, you throw them out there and let them wrestle. And I think you have to do the same thing with your coaching staff is you want to hire talent, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to stifle them. And sometimes when you throw them out there, they might make mistakes or they might do something different than you. And you just have to deal with it. And if it's driving you crazy, you bring them back in and say, hey, what you're doing here is driving me crazy, just like you would a wrestler. And so I kind of approach it like that. We came in and we had some professional disagreements on things, and I'd never like to hire yes men. And I tell them that, I have a lot of faith in you guys and I'm going to let you do most things, but I am going to tell you no every now and then. And if at the end of the day, it proves that when I told you no, I was wrong and you were right, then we'll change it. So I'm going to make mistakes, but I still, at the end of the day, have to be the guy that takes the hit, good or bad. But I think just letting them go, I think just like a wrestler, I think you got to let them go. And gosh, Mike Zadick's got all kinds of personality. He's all over the place, but he's so passionate that he gets it done times 10. And, his excitement and his genuineness is great. Derek's just kind of a quiet guy until you get him in the room, and then he's just really strong when you get him in the room. He's really strong when you get him in there, and the way he can relate to athletes. And Tony's just, so well-rounded, and he can do everything. And obviously, I'm assuming that Mike and Derek want to be head coaches someday, so they have to develop that full-roundedness. In the wrestling world, they're unbelievable. And just watching Mike and Derek run freestyle workouts this spring, I was like, wow, those guys. And I like to learn. I'm 53 years old. I love to learn. I learned a lot of stuff this fall, so I just continue to learn off these guys. But we've got, really with the guys we got now, you got 4 different personalities. Then you throw a guy in like Devin Carter, who doesn't say a whole lot, but you just watch him work out every day, and you're like, holy smokes, nobody in the team needs to really. Devin doesn't need to say a lot. Just watch the guy, see how hard he wrestles every day when he comes to practice. And he's working on a master's or PhD degree, so he's real busy. But we just got a good situation right now. It's exciting.
One of the big hires that came through the pipe nationally earlier today as we record this on August 3rd was Kenny Monday being hired as the Tar Heel Wrestling Club coach down in Carolina, also in the ACC. And that kind of leads to the next part of the discussion about the regional training centers and the wrestling clubs that are starting to draw name hires, and it's beyond what we see as part of coaching staffs. And granted, guys like that do work with the college programs, but how has the Southeast Regional Training Center and the hiring of the staff there really helped develop not just the athletes there, but the entire wrestling program as a whole?
Well, yeah, I mean, ACC, we're stepping it up. I mean, geez, you got UNC, they must have hit the lottery down there because they're hiring guys right and left. And, bringing a guy in like Kenny Monday with his background is going to make them stronger and make us stronger. And I say us, I mean the conference. And you're having guys like Mike Zadek and Derek St. John run your freestyle program. My gosh, you can't say, that's two pretty big names in the wrestling world. And not just from a big name standpoint. It's more than being a big name. It's producing. And so we're looking forward to that. And, we're in a position right now where we're actually looking for a couple more guys, but, we've got a couple of guys that are pretty good in our program right now, like a guy named Ty Walls and Joey Dance. So I know that we've already struck a deal with Ty to stay around. So he's going to be a guy that we'll keep around most likely, and unless something crazy changes. But him and I have already spoke, and we'll see what Joey wants to do when he's done. Right now, we need to worry about winning 2 national titles, one at 125 and one at heavyweight. But those could be guys that we could quickly add to our staff in the next 9 or 10 months. So we're going in the right direction with that. But I've never been somebody to run out and hire somebody, and we do have some money now. But I want to get the right guy in here. I'm not going to run out and hire somebody just to hire somebody. I want to make sure. And hiring Hokies would be my first. Now that we're starting to produce, that kind of level guys, that's the first guy that I want to hire.
You've never really been one to sugarcoat anything. I mean, who you got your eye on here?
Who do I got my eye on in terms of regional training center guys?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have in terms of any individuals that are away from our program. We talked to some people. We talked to Zach Sanders from Minnesota. He was a guy that we looked at hard. I think Zach's got some opportunity. He feels what's going on in Minnesota. But we haven't looked at many. I'm kind of picky. If I'm going to spend a lot, and when we bring people in, I like to pay them. And so if I'm going to pay somebody a lot of money, I want to make sure we get the right guy. And, I know with a guy like Ty Walls exactly what we're getting. So I don't mind paying a guy like Ty Walls to come and train. And Ty's really excited. Mike's done a great job about getting him excited about the next level. So he's so fired up about freestyle right now that, he's a guy that's going to be a contender for a while there. So other than that, no, there's really nobody right now that I could say right now that, we'd like to hire tomorrow. So maybe the show will get me a couple phone calls. Who knows?
As we shift out to the freestyle discussion, opening ceremonies of the Olympics start August the 5th. Wrestling competition starts the 14th. And this is something that the freestyle world still has a little bit of a crossover problem with the college wrestling fans. So let's just get the Kevin Dresser Olympics 2016 primer. What are you looking forward to watching this year in Rio?
Well, obviously everybody likes to watch Jordan Burroughs wrestle. He's such a great ambassador to the sport and such a stud. And so we like when our guys go out and kick everybody else's butt. So I'm pretty simple. I just like when the USA guys kicked everybody's butt. So obviously I think Jordan Burroughs is good. We had a chance to have Kyle Snyder train with us some, and we were around him. We recruited him hard. Unfortunately, he went to Ohio State, but I love that guy. And, we're big fans of him. And of course, with Zadok and St. John having such close relationships, Daniel Dennis has been out here. Daniel Dennis is a great success story. But any of those guys, obviously, I don't know the Greco guys very well, but all of the freestyle guys that we've had, obviously, we've watched them compete sometimes closer than we wanted to. But I'm excited to watch it. I'm going to be glued to my whatever the heck they're showing it on TV, internet, whatever. I'll be listening to you and telling everybody I know you,
Yeah, I fly out on the 8th. So, I'll be down there for 2.5 weeks as I leave a 4-year-old and at this point, a 3-week-old behind, almost 4 weeks old. So, yeah, my wife is sitting there wondering when this wrestling thing is going to be over.
Tell her when you die. All right.
Yeah, probably. But any final thoughts as we wrap up episode 34 here? We've talked coaching. We've talked a little bit about the convention. We've even given you a little tease of the Olympics and freestyle. And final thoughts as you prepare to hit the lake, Coach Dresser.
No, well, actually, we're just real excited. Next time we get together, next show, I get a lot of people that want information on lineups, so I'll do that. Actually, our newsletter will have kind of a short, just brief recap of what we saw this summer a little bit. From 125 to heavyweight, and some names and some bodies and some injury reports. But we can talk more about that in our next show, and then we'll get together and talk about our schedule. Our schedule's getting finalized, pretty close to being finalized. It's actually up on Hokiesports.com right now. So I know we got some great fans. I know we haven't done a show for a while, so I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us. I'm sure this will be a good one, and you'll get a chance to talk to Derek, I think, and Tony, right?
Yeah, they will be next episode after I return from Rio, so we'll be set to go with that.
Okay. Well, safe travels and go Hokies.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.